Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Gravity, and I'm here with Epic Kate.
Hi.
Hi. And so on today's podcast, I wanted to talk about just like funny or weird things that we might have seen in the Bible. And I have a list. Kate, do you have a list?
I have a list.
Okay, so there's a possibility that our lists might intersect at some points. So I'm just saying, I mean, how many different funny things can there be in the Bible? There's just, maybe they don't intersect. Maybe there's enough for us to have our own individual lists. But what I want to do here is I want us to go just like one at a time after each other. And if we have one that ends up being the same, then we'll, if you have anything else to say about that, then we'll do that. And then we'll move on to the next one.
Is it like categories where we lose points if we've got the same thing?
I don't think there's gonna be any points.
Oh.
but whoever, which one of us, for both the judges, whoever decides to found the weirdest or funniest thing, they can be the winner if we want to make this a game.
Or the people in the comments can say who's the winner.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, so I don't have any news. Do you have any news?
I have no news.
You have no news? All right, then let's just jump right into it. And I'll let guests be first. Go ahead. What's your first funny one that you have? Or funny, weird, strange?
I'll just like start at the top. It's not necessarily the funniest, but I really appreciate it. Mm-hmm. Actually, it is funny. Deborah, the prophetess.
I think I know where this is going.
That the guy was like, I can't do it by myself. I need you to come with me. And she's like, fine. But if I come with you, a woman is getting credit for the victory.
Mm-hmm. All right. So that point for you. That's one I don't have on my list. Can you tell me where that is so I can find it?
I cannot. But I know how to use this beautiful thing called Google.
Oh, yeah.
Google.
All right, so I have my list, and it's not in any particular order. It kind of jumps around the whole Bible. Just kind of came to me as I was thinking of things. And so the first one I have here is, do you know the story in, what is this? This is 1 Kings, where Elijah basically challenges this other group of people to like a god off, where it's like his god against, I think the other god's name is, these other people's god named Baal. And they're like, let's find out whose god is like the most powerful, the strongest. And so there's these people like jumping around, doing all these sorts of things, trying to get their god to do something. And nothing is happening. And Elijah is over here and he's starting to make fun of them. And he starts basically saying, perhaps your God is asleep, or maybe he's in the bathroom, or maybe he's off on a journey. And I thought that was pretty funny.
That was pretty brutal.
I think what was brutal is what those people were doing to themselves to try and get their, God to do something.
They were just bleeding. They're just cutting themselves, just trying to get God's attention.
Yeah.
That actually reminds me of a sermon that was talking about how circumcision was such a neat thing, that before people didn't know how much they needed to cut themselves in order to make their God happy, but you cannot circumcise someone more than once.
That is true. I actually have something on my list about circumcision. So let's go ahead and I'll go ahead and skip over to that, but you go ahead and go next because it's your turn.
All right. So there was a king who was so fat and so awkward. And did you have this on your list too?
Go ahead though.
And the guy tricked the one in to kill him because he was bad and needed to be killed or whatnot, was left-handed, but he put his sword on the other side. But I don't think that's actually important to the story. But anyways, he snuck in, killed him, left, and his servants were waiting for him to come out and like, how long? Maybe he's tending to his needs. We don't want to interrupt him while he's tending to his needs.
Wait, hold on. So you put a lot of emphasis on tending to his needs. I just figured that meant that he was just going to the bathroom, but you put emphasis on he is doing something else.
Yes.
Oh, I did not think of that. But the thing is with like the left-handed thing is that since he was left-handed, they didn't expect his weapon to be on a certain side, so they thought, oh, he's not armed, or they didn't notice. Yeah. And so he was able to get into near the king with a weapon.
Yeah, totally.
All right, let's see.
There's some gory stuff in the Bible.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It is not it's not a PG book.
Nope. All right, let's see. What was mine? Let me go ahead and skip to the one because you were talking about circumcision. So let me go ahead and go to that one.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
All right. So I believe it is Paul is writing a letter to the Galatians, getting on to some of the teachers because they are teaching that in order for some of the Gentiles to become Christians, they have to adopt Jewish traditions, which is not true. And one of those Jewish traditions that the teachers are telling the Galatians to adopt is circumcision. And Paul says, if you are teaching circumcision in order to be a Christian, you might as well just cut the whole thing off.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Because he's like, no, you don't need to do that to be a Christian. If anyone is teaching that, I was all like, oh, I thought the Bible was for children. This is brutal.
Yeah.
So that's one. Was this one you were thinking about, or was there a different one?
I was thinking it was, but it's not really funny. But
it's not funny, but it's kind of like it's not exactly funny, but it's like a what? Kind of like that's in the Bible. That guy just told him to cut his what off if he taught what?
I was thinking you were going to talk about Zipporah circumcising her sons and throwing the foreskins at Moses' feet, saying, "You're a husband of blood to me."
I didn't know about that. That is very interesting. I think that also sounds like someone who just is like doesn't like other customs, and I have a feeling that I completely understand how like circumcision like makes no sense today, and it's completely
not today,
done. No, totally and it's completely done just because of like tradition and like religion. But like back in the ancient times, I could see how it would maybe make sense to prevent like some sort of like illness because they weren't as clean back then.
Yeah,
but
the Zipporah story is if it's something like God was really mad at them, and she was mad at Moses for not doing it in the first place.
Oh, she was mad at him. I thought maybe she was mad at him because she didn't want it to happen. Because like I said, I don't think I've heard that before, and I know that Zipporah was not Jewish or not Hebrew. She was like, they were in the wilderness. She took a sharp rock and she did it. And she was just really angry at him that he didn't take the responsibility of doing what God had told him to do. I think that's what it's about, but correct me if I'm wrong. I wouldn't be able to correct you because I didn't even know about that story. That's not the Moses story that I heard. I heard he parted the Red Sea and everything was happy. Is that right?
Yes.
All right, let's go ahead.
My turn?
All right, go ahead and do your next story because I just did the Paul one.
It's also not funny, but it's gory. Let's go ahead and say the gory stuff of the Bible than funny.
Okay, I have a gory one too. It's not funny at all. It just kind of surprised me. Like, what just happened? So go ahead with yours.
It might be the same story as with Deborah. I think they might be connected. That the woman coaxed the king into her tent. She was like, "Come on, big boy." Gave him more milk to drink. He fell asleep in her lap. And then she got a tent peg and pounded it through his face, and he died. And that's the woman that got credit for the victory of killing the bad king.
Yeah, it's not funny, but it's just like, it's not something you would expect in the Bible if your perception of the Bible is like a book of like children's
Ooh,
stories that say,
yeah.
"Oh, be kind to one each other. Oh, don't don't steal. Don't be mean." And then all of a sudden, there's a story about a woman driving a stake through a guy's head,
A lot
and it's
of
like,
people think that the Bible says a bunch of things that it doesn't actually say in general. Like,
right. So
yeah,
there are things in the Bible where you're like, what? That's in the Bible? It's like, yes, that's in the Bible. That does not mean that is what the Bible is teaching. The Bible is
no,
not teaching for you to go into someone's house and drive a stake through their head. That is a
no.
story, and there is an overarching reason for that happening, but that is not what the Bible is teaching.
Yeah, that's like when people say, "Oh, I need to listen. We need to determine whether this is a biblical concept or not." Like genocide is biblical. It's the intent, it's the history, it's the meaning of who they were talking to. A lot of things have to be taken into consideration.
Right. A lot of things that people do is they take the stories out of the Bible and they try to make them like Aesop's fables and say, here's the moral to this story. Here's the moral to this story, when it needs to be taken in like all together as an overarching story of God's people. And when you take them out of context, you take them out of a larger story.
And like the ancient Jews or even current Jews, they never said this is what this story means. It was open to a lot of interpretations.
I think the only time where it says this is what the story means is when Jesus was telling parables and people would come to him and say, well, what do you mean by this? And then he'd try and explain it again and he'd just say another parable.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
is it your turn to have a good one?
I believe so. Let's see, where was I skipped, so I made my list go out of order. This is not funny. This just caught me by surprise. So I know in the Bible there are a lot of instances where people just drop dead. Okay? But this was a much more, not spectacular, but like a larger display of somebody dropping dead. And it just caught me off guard. And it's the guy in Acts who apparently just randomly explodes.
Explodes, huh?
Yes. It says, I'm gonna read from it's in Acts, which one? Acts 1. So I was just starting off in Acts, and then all of a sudden someone explodes. So I'm going to start in Acts 12 and read down to 18. And it says, in those days, Peter stood up among the brothers. The company of persons was in all about 120, and said, brothers, the scripture has been fulfilled, which the Holy Spirit spoke beforehand by mouth of David concerning Judas, who became a guide to those who arrested Jesus. For he was numbered among us and was allotted his share in the ministry. Now it says, now this man, and it says man, so I don't know, is it talking about Judas or is it talking about the person who was just speaking? But it wasn't Peter. It was somebody else. I don't know, somebody here. Now this man acquired a field that renewed of Okay, now this man acquired a field with the reward of his wickedness, and falling headlong, he burst open in the middle, and all his bowels gushed out. Who is it saying whose bowels gushed out? I'm pretty sure it was a bad person.
Yes. But that's one of the inconsistencies in the Bible, is two different accounts of how Judas died. One was suicide by hanging, and one was this whole entrails bursting out thing.
Well, I mean, when you die, you kind of, there's what's this thing called? You fill up with gas and then you blow up. So maybe, no, okay, so they said he built a field. Maybe this was a different guy, because I mean, Judas showed him where like Jesus was, but he delivered him over to somebody. Maybe it was that person. I don't know. But it was just suddenly shocked me that somebody exploded.
That reminds me of another thing that you never hear about on Easter. So it actually talks about when sometime in the timeline between Jesus dying and the sky turning dark and the curtain ripping from bottom to top, that dead people came out of their tombs and walked around. Like, you never hear that part on Easter.
Yeah, you don't hear that part on Easter. Uh, well, yeah. A lot of people like to focus on Jesus resurrecting and they kind of skip over this weird part. Like, what, zombies? Did they became the Walking Dead? What happened here?
Well, I would take it further than that and say people would just want to only focus on the resurrection and not really focus on anything Jesus actually taught about.
Oh, yeah. Alrighty, whose turn is it? It's your turn. I talked about the exploding guy.
All right. So I think we talked about this before. I don't remember. The Witch of Endor.
Sounds like someone from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? So Saul had messed up and he wasn't going to be king forever. And he was freaking out and he was trying to figure out, and Samuel had died. And so, but Saul had like cast out all the mystics and witches and bloody blues, but he was desperate to see Samuel. So he disguised himself and sought out a witch to conjure up Samuel from the dead. And it worked. And Samuel was like, dude, leave me alone. I already told you what was up. I already told you that you messed up and you weren't going to be king forever and you need to move on. And the witch was freaked out. Like, you really get the feeling like she had not expected it to work. And she was like, and then she recognized the king too and was like, okay, don't kill me. And she was like, please don't kill me. And please let me give you something to eat, because he was super weak. And I think that's a really interesting story.
That one sounds pretty interesting too. All right, I think we actually got a good diverse list here. I think we've only had one that was the same so far.
Did you have that one on your list?
No, I did not. I think the only one we've had similar is the fat guy who got stabbed by a knife or a sword.
Yeah.
Actually,
you didn't. And the funny part, you didn't even realize.
What's that?
That he was attending to his knee.
Oh yeah, that. Okay, let's move on. All right, where was I? Okay. Now, this is actually a very serious verse. There's just one thing about it. There's really nothing funny about it except for one word. It's just a word that I chuckled at. Have you heard of the word nard?
Nard?
Nard.
I don't know.
Okay, so nard is the name of what the perfume is made out of that the woman poured over Jesus's head. Yes. And it's just, I laugh just because nard sounds funny. That's about it. It was like very, very nice, serious verse because this woman is preparing Jesus, to be crucified, and I'm over here laughing at the word nard. It says, and while he was in Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, and he was reclining at table, a woman came with an alabaster flask and anointed of ointment of pure nard, very costly, and she broke the flask and poured it over his head. And again, I'm laughing at the word nard.
You're so spiritual.
I know, right? All right.
There's one. Did you know the story of the people who captured the Ark of the Covenant?
I vaguely, go ahead.
I've always loved this story so much. So they captured the Ark of the Covenant and they put it in the same space as their idols. And when they went back to it in the morning, their idol was face first, fallen down, broken in front of the Ark of the Covenant.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Let's see. What was their idol of? I just want to see if this.
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay, if it was like an idol of some sort of creature, and I don't know. Let's see.
Back in the day, I would have done so much better at Bible trivia, but I still have a bunch of information up there. I just don't have as many specifics.
I know that there is like difficult Bible trivia that would be really like hard and like that would inquire you to actually like dig deep into the Bible. But every time I look for Bible trivia, it's all the easy stuff like Who is the Messiah? How
many
what
commandments
did
were
Jesus
there?
die on? How many disciples were there? And so like this like elementary like Bible trivia is like, where's the hard stuff? Like who captured the Ark of the Covenant? And I'd be like, I actually have to look in the Bible to find this out.
What were the names of Job? Yeah, what were the name of Job's children after he got kids again?
It says their names.
One of them, I remember one of their names, or not anymore. I remember what it means, like music box.
Oh, that's interesting. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Where was mine? Okay, this was a story about the fat guy, so we already did that. All right, this one is a pun. I found a pun in the Bible. It's probably not a pun in Hebrew or Greek, but it's a pun in English, and I like it. Why should a fool have money if in his hand to buy wisdom he has no sense? And it says sense spelled like, sense, but it can also mean like sense, like you have no sense, no pennies, no money.
I get it.
That's a pun that I found in the Bible that I like.
So I think I'm probably going to blow your mind, maybe.
Is it with a pun?
But the beautiful and romantic story of Ruth and Boaz.
Are you going to ruin that story?
I'm going to ruin that story.
Ruin that story. Okay, go ahead.
Well, ruin the purity culture that we were raised in about it, because it's still a beautiful story, but it's not as pure as they told it to us. So when Ruth is saying, was it Naomi saying to Ruth? Yeah, Naomi's the stepmom, Ruth's the daughter-in-law. She was like, okay, here's the thing that you need to do to get this man to love you. Go into the thing, find him when he's sleeping, and uncover his feet. In the word that they translated feet from is not feet, it's genitals.
So she snuck into his house?
He had a really nice time of hanging out with people and was sleepy and happy and drunk. And she basically went in there and, probably fondled or other stuff with him, and then fell asleep and kept his body warm with her body, kept his feet warm with her body.
His feet? Because you said it wasn't feet.
Yeah.
I'll go back in the world. They ended up happy though, right? Okay, I love how diverse our list is here, because I was really worried we'd have the same things on our list. Okay, I have. Oh no, that could not have been my last one. What am I? Oh, okay. Here's my one. A guy falling out the window. So apparently Paul, is it Paul? Where? Right. Okay. On the first day of the week, they were gathered together to break bread. Paul talked with them, intending to depart on the next day, and he prolonged his speech until midnight. So this guy, I don't know when he started talking, but he talked till midnight. There were many lamps in the upper room where they were gathered. A young man named, I can't pronounce that. Let's call him Chris. Bob. I don't know, Paul. No, he can't be Paul because Paul's talking. It starts with an E and makes me think of eucalyptus, but that's not his name.
We can call him eucalyptus.
Sitting at the window, sinking into a deep sleep as Paul still talked longer. So this is like the preacher that won't shut up and you want to go home and have lunch. And being overcome by sleep, he fell down from the third story and was taken up dead. So he basically fell out of a window and died because Paul just talked forever. And then Paul was all like, probably shouldn't have talked so long. And then they went down to him and it turns out he wasn't dead. Paul says he's just asleep, which is, I think it's funny that the dude that Paul just talked for so long that he literally made someone fall out of a window. Because I remember I went on a missions trip, and I don't remember if this was my missions trip to Australia or South Africa, but I think it was South Africa. One of the leaders there that we went to the trip with just never wanted. always like kept us up until like 1 or 2 in the morning with like worship music and doing some like spiritual like thing, like, you know, commune with God. It's like, can I commune with God in my dreams? I need to go to sleep. And then we'd like have to wake up at like 7 or something in the morning, and it was absolutely ridiculous. There was one time I just passed out on the floor, and later I got woken up, and they were like, haha, you fell asleep. It's like, yeah, I fell asleep. It's 3 in the morning. And it's like, is it like a badge of honor to like stay up till 3, like worshiping and not fall asleep? That's dumb. But anyway, they were like my age, so it was fine. But it was just like, no, I want to go to sleep. I love God, but I want to sleep. That's fine, right? Anyway,
Of course. That just sounds like seriously abusive.
I mean, it wasn't everybody, and obviously I knew that the guy like meant well, but I don't know why he thought that was a good idea.
No.
I really wish I just would have got up and left and said, well, I'm going to bed. But at the same time, I was like, I didn't want to be the first one to leave.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So I think I actually told all my stories.
Me too.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I didn't really have anything else planned. But would you mind, unless you have something else to talk about, if we ended early today? Because I actually need to go grocery shopping.
Well, life is important.
Yes. I hope that didn't just pick up on the... You didn't hear that, did you?
Hear what?
My husband just walked into the room and farted.
Oh, romance isn't dead. I hope you will leave this in. Don't edit this out.
All right, that could be the ending though, because I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna end this early because I gotta go grocery shopping and buy food for my children. So thank you everybody so much for watching, and say bye, Kate.
Bye.
Bye.